Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire. Youth Worker Nation, this is Doug again, and it's great to have you here with Youth Worker on Fire. And we have with us Chad Canfield. And Chad, I've known Chad since high school, probably ran into him in middle school.
Yes.
But he's had quite a history of good and great things happening in his life. Great family. I remember your mom and dad just really being encouragement to you all through those years. It was very obvious, and also obvious that they were your biggest fan.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so Eustis High School, and grew up in this area, went to a church called First Baptist at that time.
Yep.
And now it's called Life Point. Since you were about 8 years old.
Yeah.
Went to Eustis High, and I think you spent a little time at Apopka. Did you go to Apopka for a year?
Yep, I transferred my junior year. I went to Apopka.
Okay.
Correct.
And then Florida State.
Yep, I actually went to Florida, redshirted there for a year.
Okay.
And then went to Florida State.
Oh, that is crazy.
Exactly.
But you played at Florida State.
Played at both schools, yes.
Played at both schools.
Both schools, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
And what was the difference?
I always laugh and joke. I say that we were spoiled a lot more at Florida than we were at Florida State. In terms of our training table, the medical staff. I mean, we had a massage therapist, chiropractors, everything. At Florida State, you didn't have that. You just kind of had to fend for yourself. And I think that's why they're always been a little bit tougher than the Gators, in my opinion.
Because they're going, no, we're going to see how tough you can be.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Wow. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've interviewed football players and sports guys from both schools.
Yep.
And I never knew that.
That's a little hidden secret. Maybe they weren't,
That's right. The guys on the Florida side that never went to Florida State, they're not going to say that.
No.
They're going, oh no, we're the top.
Sorry, guys.
We're the top. We're the guys. But, and then you ended up in banking.
I did.
And then in investment banking.
Yep. Financial advisor.
That's right. So Chad, tell me about everything that led up to your fight with cancer.
Yeah, so it was April 13th, 2016, around 10:30 in the morning that I had gotten a call from a previous procedure that I had. I had an endoscopy that they were checking some tissue in my esophagus and things of that nature. And I'm a big baby when it comes to needles. And I asked them to run all my blood work while I'm under, and the doctor said he would. And they called me back on April 13th, and they said, hey, the biopsies came back okay in your throat, but you need to get to the ER right now because you have AML. So that's how quick it was. Within 2 days, I knew after I had that procedure.
Okay, and tell us what AML is.
So it's acute myeloid leukemia, which is a very dangerous blood cancer. And they really don't know how I actually came up with it because I don't have the cancer gene. It was just sheer chance that I got it. So it's a cancer that's hard to treat. It can be treated, and I'm living proof. I've been blessed that I'm in remission from all the treatment processes that I have gone through.
That's right. And then you ended up in Houston at Moffitt.
Yes. MD Anderson.
MD Anderson.
MD
what am
Anderson.
I thinking? Yeah, MD Anderson. Yes. So tell me tell us what happened there, because some interesting things happened.
Yeah, it was. So I actually did my first chemo to get I immediately went to the emergency room and was admitted to the hospital that day. So we 2 days later, we started all my chemo in Orlando. So I did that. I was in the hospital for 35 days, lost about 30 pounds.
Wow.
And so because they had to get me in remission, that's the most important thing. It's crucial to get yourself in remission. And, like I said, I had no symptoms. So the physician said that, or my oncologist said I was about two months away from no longer being here with everyone. So I was very fortunate, but they got me in remission. So I was in the hospital for 35 days. Then after that, they have consolidation rounds that you have to do. This is the default kind of chemo procedure for AML patients. So I did that, and I had 8 consolidation rounds. So every month I had to go to the hospital for about 7 to 10 days
Wow.
and do more rounds of chemo. So I did that throughout that whole year. And then I knew it without a doubt. The first, right when I was in the hospital the first time through the first chemo procedure, God just laid it upon my heart that I was going to get a stem cell transplant. Have no idea where it came about. I knew about it, but I knew I had my mind made up. All the physicians and my oncologist and parents didn't really want me to get it because they said I didn't have to, but I just knew that that was something that God was just leading me to. So I was just going to do it and trust it.
Yeah.
So we did that. Went to MD Anderson to research and get qualified for the stem cell. They have to look for a match, a donor match in the stem cell bank, which is it's pretty extensive. There's about 3.5 million donors in that base, I believe, and it took them about 3.5 months to find my match.
Wow.
Which was a little difficult, a little worrisome, right? So you're within that time, they're always worried about your cancer relapsing. So I had to go and get more chemo shots and things of that nature within that 3.5 months. But we finally got the phone call that I had 2 matches.
Wow.
One was a female and one was a male. And the blessing behind it was they were perfect matches, which is a 10 out of 10, which is the best you can get besides having a sibling that's a 10 out of 10. That's the only thing that would top it.
And we'll discuss more of that
Yes.
later because that sounds really
Yes.
technical.
Yes, we will. We will for sure.
But what happened to your mom?
So MD Anderson, we get out there, I get the stem cell. I'm in the hospital for about 20 days. She's had a terrible chest cold, was coughing and sneezing. The doctors were frantic because they said any little thing could kill me at that point because I had no immune system. So they get, it was actually my idea. I said, why don't you go see one of the doctors here, maybe get a chest x-ray or something like that. And my oncologist said, sure, we'll get you right with the lymphoma clinic because she had previously had cancer when I was in high school.
Oh.
So she had been in remission for 12 years. Well, lo and behold, she goes and meets with the lymphoma clinic and gets an x-ray and gets a PET scan, which detects cancer. And it showed that she had breast cancer under her left breast.
Oh, my.
When we were there. And it was very aggressive. So, and she had just had a mammogram at the beginning of the year that didn't catch it. So that's what, it was more adversity that hit us with there. So she's trying to take care of me. I just get out of the hospital and now she has a lumpectomy a week later and then I'm taking care of her.
Oh, man.
So it was incredible, but it was definitely, you look back, it was without a doubt, I always call it like a God wink when you look back and just say, hey, look, he's taking care of us, because without that, we would have never detected it, and it quite possibly would have been too late for her.
Absolutely. Now let's go back and tell me this. Just catch us up to date from then to now, whatever you want to tell us, and give us a little bit about your personal life.
Yeah, so we went, one of the biggest hurdles was going out to Houston and going through the stem cell, because it's 4 months you actually have to stay out there. So we had, my mom and I had to rent an apartment, and you're out there for 4 months, and it's pretty rough. It's a pretty rough process. I would say that's probably one of the worst health situations that I had to go through, even worse than the beginning chemo. It just really took it out. I mean, I had a couple really bad days that, quite honestly, I didn't know if I was going to pull through, but I did, and I've since recovered phenomenally. They just, the doctors are still in amazement here in Orlando and at MD Anderson. They say that they do about 3,200 stem cell transplants a year at MD Anderson, and they've never seen anybody recover as fast and as well as I have. So I give all the glory to God, and
that's right.
And I've also taken really good care of myself physically and through my diet, nutrition, and I think that that obviously played a big role in it, well, as far as, and also the support of my family, which is second to none. As you mentioned, they're my biggest fans for sure.
Yeah. The way we keep running into each other is in the gym.
In the gym.
But anyway, seeing you in there a few times, we hadn't seen each other in years.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, you're going for cancer treatment.
Yeah.
I don't believe when I first started seeing you, you'd found any of that out.
No.
Tell me about, let's go back though. Tell me about when it was in high school when your mom had cancer.
Yep, she got diagnosed. That was, we were talking, when you and I were talking about some questions that you may have asked, that was I would say that was probably that was the worst point in my life, was finding out that she had cancer. And if she would have do nothing, she maybe had 3 to 5 months to live.
Oh my.
So that hit our family really hard. That was in the year 2000, 2001, right before graduating from Apopka. So we got that news dropped on us, and it hit us obviously pretty hard, but she's a tough cookie. So there's not too many models like her these days, and she fought through it. It was really hard for our family. It was, we were very blessed at the same time that she went into remission fairly quickly and has been so for the past 12 years.
Yeah.
So that was in high school. So obviously that was the first hard adversity health-wise within the family that we had to face.
Being a high school student Yeah, you're an adolescent. I mean, the one thing that we know is adolescence goes all the way to about 25 for a guy.
Sometimes a little more.
And a little more. My wife would say that maybe I haven't grown up yet, but
it's okay.
And then 22 for a girl on the average. So there's a lot of emotions going on. And you're a tough guy. I've watched you a lot of years, and even if that's at those times you're tough, but behind closed doors, there had to be times of breaking down. So tell me what life was like at home, the things that you can share. And the reason we're doing this is because we're looking at youth workers. All kinds of people will listen to this at some time, but are targeted those youth pastors, and they handle situations like this and work with people. So let's talk about those things behind closed doors that no one knew, or that you can talk about, that you wish you had someone to maybe help you with or talk through.
Yeah, I've been, honestly, I mean, I know some people maybe not had the opportunity, but I've been blessed to be surrounded by coaches. You mentioned, I played a lot of sports, basketball, football, baseball, and I was around a lot of coaches that actually were great Christian men, and they helped build my foundation, within Christ. So it was nice to have that support going forward of what I had to deal with. But I mean, I'm not going to lie, at the beginning, and it was tough. You're angry. You don't know why this is happening. I'm aggressive at nature, so I was obviously an angry individual at first. We were just all struggling as a family unit of accepting what has happened and really just kind of getting everybody at peace with it. Mm-hmm. But I had great coaches that at the time, Coach Rick Darlington, he was at Apopka with me when my mom got diagnosed with that, and he was always there just asking and praying for us continuously. And Shelly Darlington, his wife, phenomenal, a woman on that side, and they gave me a lot of support within that time, and I never really got a chance to thank them of how much that really meant to me, but it really did. So, but behind closed doors, as a grown man, I mean, I cried a lot, I prayed a lot, I just was asking why. My faith is much stronger and secure now, I believe, as far as going through those things, which was, I know it was God's plan, but that just helped build it stronger and just cure that situation for me.
What was harder, going through your own cancer or going through cancer with your mom?
Oh, well, tenfold. I mean, I would die for my mom and dad in a second. Her getting struck with that was tenfold what I had to go through. So, I mean, I was like, okay, give it all to me. I'm okay. I'll take it all day long, but don't touch her. Please don't touch her or my father. Right. So that was by far the hardest thing. Even the second time with the breast cancer, I was just praying, please, just if anything happens, just take me. They wouldn't want me to say that, but just don't, let her suffer.
Yes, parents, it'd be just the opposite.
Exactly. Right? I know. I'm quite sure it would or whatever.
And we went through that in our family. My wife ended up with breast cancer. My kids were, Ryan, I think, was right out of high school, and my other two were one in high school and one middle school. So we get that whole scene, and we get the whys. Hey, I'm a youth pastor. Yeah. I'm supposed to have all the answers, and I went crazy, for a while trying to make things happen.
Yeah.
And going through a lot of questions. It doesn't matter what your faith is, you're still going to question.
It's true.
And that's a natural process. It's the being able to turn around and see that you have a God.
Correct.
That is bigger than the universe and bigger than yourself. And you still wonder why he doesn't do certain things certain ways,
He sure does.
God, we have a better plan over here. What's up, right?
Well, like Scripture says, we make our plans, but God directs our steps. So I'm a firm believer of that.
Other than your parents, who was that one person in middle school, high school, or college that stands out, that was a mentor in your life, whether they wanted to be or not, that just flipped a switch in your brain of, this is where I want to go in life?
So besides outside of like you mentioned, my parents of being just incredible.
Yes.
I thought about it so much, and it was so funny because I started sports in late 80s, early 90s, and it's just not one person. So I thought about it, and I figured I'd break it down because there was actually different sports-wise that I focused on. All these coaches touched my life in one way or another.
Okay.
So from football, starting off in Pop Warner, we had a Pop Warner football, and we were the Gators here. I don't know if you remember back in that day. Yeah. So the Lake Youth Gators, and we had a blast with that. But starting off coach-wise, I had, Coach Stanley was my first coach ever. And you're talking about, I was a country club kid coming in on the football field. I remember the first day I had on a helmet and shoulder pads, and that was it, no other pads. And I was out there tackling and I got hurt, didn't want to play anymore. And he said, look, man, so he said, you got something special. He said, I know you're tough. I really want you to stick it out. He just helped build that perseverance in a way and determination. And then after him was, I had Coach Hooks. I had Coach Willie Jones. I had Coach Jerry Washington. I had Coach Johnny Saunders, who you probably know. Johnny has been in the community for a long time, doing a lot of great things at Apopka and USIS. I had Coach Darlington. And one thing that he always never shied away from is we prayed before practice, we prayed after practice. And one verse, I think it's Proverbs 22:1, a good name is to be more desired than great riches, favor is better than silver and gold. I remember that to this day because that's what we said and we believed it. So that from a football standpoint, and then going into the collegiate level, Coach Bowden was just an incredible man. My mom was still fighting cancer at that point in time when I was in school. I would go up and see him on a regular basis, and the first question he'd always do is he'd hug me, put his arm around me, and ask me how mom was doing. Matter of fact, I saw him 10, 12 years later at a speaking function at Life Point, and the first question he asked was, how's your mom doing? And she tapped him on the shoulder right behind him. So, I mean, he just, as far as on that side, on baseball, I had Coach Lee, he coached at Eustis, Coach Dennis Mitchell, Coach Kenny Carpenter. I had, even, Coach Wise over at Apopka. I had all those coaches that just helped build a foundation around me. And it's with faith, respect, loyalty, drive, and all of that I've taken from my sport. So, I mean, I'm blessed to have been touched. It's not just one person. All of those individuals played a key role in my life.
And the great thing about that, I'm glad
Coach
you said
Dave
that.
Westgate. I have to. Dave Westgate is an incredible individual.
He is a great,
and
great
I love
man.
him to death.
One thing Dr. John Maxwell says, I don't know if you've heard of Maxwell. Maxwell, he's one of the top leadership guys in the world. And one thing he said, never have one mentor. I always shoot for that because we're looking for adolescents, what's happening in there, who is that influencer, how do they influence you, and I ask everyone that question. But the one thing he says have multiple mentors. He said if you have one mentor, you're not only going to get their good, you're going to get their bad, and everybody's got good and bad.
Exactly. It's true.
But you have multiple mentors, you can take just the good from all of them.
It's true.
And so you have all those guys that you're reflecting on, and all those men are huge, and they are just those guys that both have a tender side and are as tough as men can get.
Exactly.
And to finish it off, your sports career with Bobby Bowden, that's an amazing thing.
Yes, I was blessed with that.
Guys, if you haven't read Called to Coach, have you seen that book? Have you read that book yet?
That's a good one.
Oh my goodness, one of the best books that he's written. He's written many books, but Called to Coach. Best moment in life.
Best moment in life. Okay. So I thought about that some, I always, think about that sometimes. And, I had a lot of time to reflect in the hospital. And,
yes.
I'd say, and not to, not that it's cliche or anything. I think there's two best moments in my life that I can remember back even as being a little child. The first one is just, you going through as a Christian, you're believing that God died for us, on his, sacrificed his son, Jesus, on the cross for our sins. But I really always kind of was going through the motions, but I got to a point where I was just like, I would say this is before I had gotten sick. So this is probably about 5-6 years ago where I was at a point and I just felt like I was kind of going through the motions. And then I really got just down on my knees and just started praying in my faith. And when I really, really thought about God died for me and my sins, he loved me so much, not just as a group and all of us or whatever. That was a really turning point in my life, and it changed my perspective in a lot of ways. So that was a huge moment for me, one of the best moments, obviously, of accepting that and just living it. And then the second moment is just knowing I was, when you're little, you love your parents and everything, they love you, but there's certain things in life, and especially going through cancer, when I had time to sit and reflect, that just knowing, I mean, you could say it's a moment. It was a moment for me where knowing that my parents love me so much unconditionally that, I mean, I had a moment where I was at MD Anderson and I just, kind of choked me up a little bit and broke down. But just knowing that moment right there, that how much they love me and how blessed I was, for me, those were two moments. Yeah. Do you remember what day or what year of life that was for you when that hit? So I got baptized just before I left on October, I think it was 25th fourth on that side before I left to MD Anderson.
Okay.
Before that, prior to that, so this was in 2014, I went through a pretty tough breakup. And that was a really tough situation to go through. But that would be the moment within that year that really just turned my life around. And Pastor Rick Pugh was my right-hand man. I mean, he just loved on me, brought me to a great, I guess you could call it a Bible study or workbook. Probably you've heard it as far as experiencing God.
Yes.
It was phenomenal. It touched my life in so many different ways and really cleared a lot of questions that I had up, and just it helped me out a lot.
Yeah, and Rick was a good youth pastor. I mean, a good pastor for you because he was all football. He was a football guy.
Yep. A gooder guy, unfortunately, but I don't hold that against him.
I understand. Who was your youth pastor at that time when you were in high school? High school.
Middle school, high school. To be honest, with middle school, I'm trying to think. I don't think we didn't have anybody specifically that I remember that really stood out, even sports wise or in the school. FCA here at the high school, I know that, it wasn't mandatory, but a lot of kids attended. And I know Coach Darlington was really big, offering people in, hey, we have these things in that nature. So whomever at the point in time, I know Rodney Mashburn he did some things with FCA as well as he was a strength coach for a while. You remember Rodney?
Yeah.
He's at Life Point as well.
Yeah.
But so those individuals, I would say, are the ones that stick out the most to me in my more so high school days that really helped share the word, which, these days doesn't happen as much as I would love it to happen these days. But I would say those two individuals, especially, like I said, Coach Darlington. Was very big on that.
So what are some things that you'd recommend for guys that are trying to lead students and their staff, right?
Yeah, because it applies to everybody, and I've come across all kinds of different movies. One movie that I'll never forget. I actually did a report even on college is the Passion of Christ with that one on that side. That was such a powerful movie for me. But as far as inspirational books, like I had mentioned, Experiencing God, just that by far was probably the most impactful study guide, workbook, whatever you want to call it, that I had ever even come close to cracking in my life. So that was huge. I've read other books like The Purpose-Driven Life, which was very
Rick Warren.
Exactly.
Right.
Very was a very good content in there that I've taken with me. Other books, Pastor Rick or whatever, he has his book, This Hope Foundation, which I work closely with him with. A very, very inspirational book for me, just to kind of, especially someone so close to me, seeing the adversity and how they got through it. And it's always nice I enjoy seeing movies, whether they're faced with adversity, how they get through it, especially when it's faith driven. So that really, kind of appeals to me on that side.
Yeah.
But book wise, without a doubt, and there's tons of friends and family that I've shared that with, and I would say Experiencing God, and then Francis Chan. So I listen to some of his podcasts.
Francis Chan, he's energetic, radical, energetic. In fact, he's a pastor, but student ministries use him a lot because he is so inspirational to everyone. Let's cover a couple things now. Also, one is the foundation. Give us a little more detail about Rick's foundation, Rick Pugh. But also, let's talk about what you and your father are doing about the correctional system and what you're doing on the medical end there. Okay.
Yes. I was involved in telemedicine back when I finished grad school in 2007, 2008. And telemedicine, has changed and evolved a lot since then. Just a brief explanation, like I was telling you, it's no different than you seeing your regular physician, going into the doctor's office and him evaluating you, looking in your eyes, ears, throat, skin, EKG. So all of that can be done over the web. So through web-based technology, high definition cameras, and all the peripherals, stethoscopes, and things of that nature. The visit can be done anywhere, pretty much. So that's where we started off. It was more focused internationally at that point. Rewind forward about 10, 12 years. I was out in actually Houston. My dad was researching a company, and we found out and got back into the telemedicine piece again. And I'm now acting as president, COO of that. And it's very promising. It's a very great area to help, especially with so many healthcare issues out there today for all individuals. But you had mentioned the correctional system, very unique, as many people people may not know, but there's obviously just as much need for healthcare as you and I have.
That's right.
But it's on a great level. They're coming through a lot of issues now, especially with inmates getting older. They're having a lot of chronic care issues, and these healthcare costs are astronomical. And they impact you and I because that's our tax money and things of that nature that are going to that, trying to streamline that, make it more cost effective, efficient, higher quality healthcare and better management. And I believe that we're on the right path and the right road, God willing.
And one thing we talked about is that it's really expensive in there. We talked about the expense, and this will cut down the expense a lot. I mean, we talked about taxes and all those things. How would that help us, let's say, in the private sector in the United States? Was that going to enter, you think, the correctional before it does the private sector in the United States? I mean, we know it's in Europe. What are the hurdles that we're jumping through to get it into the private sector of the United States?
Yep. So the grand scheme of the telemedicine on that side, the 30,000-foot view, it's been going on for quite some time in different areas. Private sector, it's been the government utilized it, but the way that technology has obviously changed and evolved over the years, it's made it much easier. But the public side, we focus on both. So we do public and we do the correctional side, government, state, private prisons as well. Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing is the fact of, as a whole, let's just focus on the United States. There's a tremendous shortage of physicians compared to the amount of patients that are out there and the type of care.
Yes.
So this just gives them the ability to multiply themselves further, especially in the rural areas. So let's just take, for instance, one of our clients in North Dakota. Mm-hmm. Well, there's not many physicians that might want to freeze the majority of the year in North Dakota, right? So it's a beautiful area, but it's cold. But there's a lot of, so what this does is gives those individuals there the ability to have that knowledge, those practices, procedures, treatment from anybody in the world, basically. Mm-hmm. They can have that right at their fingertips.
Yeah.
So that's in itself is huge, along with the fact that you and I don't have to sit in a doctor's office for an hour and a half waiting for your physician.
That's what I'm going to tell you. Most people don't go simply because they don't want to wait.
Exactly.
Because it's going to take up most of their day, and physicians are not always the best at keeping schedules.
Yeah, exactly. We know that.
One thing about them, when you are a caregiver, you're more concerned about the individual and everything that it takes to take care of that than you are a schedule.
Yeah.
That's why you have an office staff that's trying to push you along. But with this, now it doesn't matter where you are. It's not interrupting their life as well as your life to where you can.
Yes.
And you know what? Sometimes I think that you're able to see better with our technology, looking down the throat sometimes with the naked eye, and as opposed to looking at the video you just took of that, where you can enhance it, you can enlarge it, you can do all those things.
Yeah,
right there.
You hit the nail on the head. It's true, because now these cameras are shooting, pretty soon we'll be shooting 4K.
Yeah.
And literally you can see better than the human eye can through the video camera. And most people don't know, almost 80% of a diagnosis is visual anyways. Mm-hmm. The rest comes with scans and diagnostic testing.
Exactly.
So if you can visually see somebody, talk with them, communicate, that can be almost 80% of the diagnosis.
Now, how does that cut down on our costs, though?
Yep. So what that does, so from a standpoint of, obviously, if you can see more patients, and like for instance, in institutions that we use, they spread that cost over all of them. So when they get, let's just say we put a program, or like we're going to do a pilot program here, they're doing it in one institution, and then they'll multiple it in 6. So when we start to grow that, the actually cost comes down because we're actually seeing more patients, not getting them through fast, like you said, where there are some physicians that just want to get them in and out, spending time with them. And but the biggest thing is the actual management of the care. Mm-hmm. It puts accountability on the patient as well as the physician, because they're talking to the patient, they're scheduling right there at the end of that telemedicine visit, they're scheduling the follow-up. The patient has a printout of what they need to do as far as the treatment plan. Their scripts are printed out right there. So all of that, what it's going to do over time, it's going to bring down costs, because we're going to be more proactive with the healthcare, thus eliminating these catastrophic issues that if we were more proactive instead of being reactive, we'd be better off in the long run. So from a health standpoint, that'll bring it down, as well as the physicians. We go out there and we actually create our own network, and we can drive down the amount that, we're, paying physicians and things of that nature, because we're saying, well, look here's this group right here. We can utilize your time. It's much more efficient. You're not having to worry about, all this other stuff in your office. They could sit in their own house with their laptop and sit here and do visits. So So it's a lot more streamlined. And I think that coupled with everything else will definitely impact and bring down those costs.
Well, and I'm thinking of now all these youth pastors. I remember all the trips that I take in Colorado and Gatlinburg and being up in the mountains and being in Guatemala and being in Dominican, just these foreign areas, Mexico. And here you got a sick kid.
Yep.
And now you can get in touch with their doctor.
Yep. Exactly.
I mean, that's my thought on this.
100%. And there's mobile units that you can actually take in a little suitcase. It's big enough to put on the plane, and you could. All you have to have is power, and some type of internet source.
Yeah.
And then someone there to work the peripheral, someone that has some type of little bit of medical knowledge to do a stethoscope and things of that nature, and that's all you need.
And I used to tell people that if I had a medical personnel, whether they were, Army medic or somebody like that, or a dentist, a doctor, a nurse, doctors usually didn't want to go with us.
Yeah.
But, or paramedic or whatever, I would pay for those guys to go if they were available.
Of course.
Because they were worth their weight in gold to me when we were on a trip like that. Because at least it was a medical eye. It was more than I had.
Very crucial. And it's important, too, like you said, that a lot of those physicians, the same way in the correctional side, they don't really want to go to the prison. They would much rather do, take care of patients outside.
Very intimidating, very time consuming I've gone through the process to visit people. It's unnerving. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I have friends that they go, oh, this is no big deal.
Yeah.
I get claustrophobic. I'm going, they're going to keep me in here.
Yeah, right. They're not going to let you go.
That's right. And then the doctors are going through those things unless they're called to do that as a full-time gig. But still, like you say, very expensive.
Yeah.
Here we go. Now we got a whole nother process. Well, that's great, man.
Yeah.
I would have never known that had we not done this interview, or if I would, it'd be a long time from now.
Yeah.
That I knew that about you and about those things. And I think youth pastors, youth workers, coaches need to know this. Parents need to know this.
Yes.
About these possibilities. And now, are you the only company doing this?
No, there's a few companies out there in the country, in the United States, that do it. As far as doing it the way we do it, it's different. We the beauty behind ours, and I think I kind of took it from my financial advisor background, is being able to tailor to each individual. So each client, we can actually tailor those needs, customize however many hours they need from a physician. Do they need specialists? We have the possibility of actually bringing 4 individuals on at one time within a telemedicine conference piece where all the individuals can see each other and communicate. So your general physician can talk to your oncologist, neurologist, things of that nature, is very different. So that, and as well as our platform, is very unique because it's not software that you have to download on computers. It's all web-based, which is really nice. So you can take it anywhere with you. You have your own dedicated HIPAA-compliant cloud that's out there, and it saves all your records, all your scans, everything of all your patients or employees, whomever it is on that side. And it's very unique compared to what else is out there. But there is some, but I think we're doing a little bit different on our end.
That's good. That's good. And, and there's always, competition is good.
It is.
From the standpoint of you guys have upped your game. Now other people are going to have to think about upping their game.
Yeah, keep you on your toes.
That's right. That's right.
And all aspects of life.
That's right. Yeah. And I think about some of the visits with doctors and different things like that I know that we ran into when my wife's going to have surgery. We had the best surgeon, literally, because we were looking for the best surgeon for her, because you know how it is with your mom.
Of course.
You're going through that and how you felt about all that and how they felt about you. Of course, you're going to go to MD Anderson. If you can afford MD Anderson, or your insurance can, you're going to go to MD Anderson in Houston, because you got MD Anderson here, but that's the big boy.
So there you go. So there's my vision where, we have MD Anderson, which the statistics or whatever was ranked among highest. It's the best cancer institution in the world. Yeah. It just came out with statistics. So now what we can do with telemedicine, we could take that knowledge and then take it to wherever you're at. In Orlando, my doctor, those individuals right there can devise whatever type of plan with the chemotherapies and things of that nature, helping them administer it. And then the follow-ups are right there. So you don't even have to leave your state. So that's what, on the public side, that's what I envision as well happening. It is going to happen.
In our situation, we had the best surgeon at Shands.
Yeah.
And he ended up having an eye problem right after he had scheduled her surgery, and he could not do any surgeries. We had to use his assistant, the guy that was training under him, which was great. But we felt a little
scary. That's a little scary
and a little cheated, because here we had the best.
Yes.
What's up with this?
Yes.
And now with this technology, you have access to the best of the best worldwide.
Exactly. So that's technology is a beautiful thing. It's done a lot of great things too, especially in the healthcare sector. So looking forward to diving down into that and enjoy it.
People, or let's say students that have found out let's say middle school through college, they have found out they've gotten cancer, or they found out one of their siblings has, or their mom or their dad. It's one thing to have a sibling have cancer. It's another thing to have mom and dad, your security point. These are the people financially taking care of you, physically taking care of you, spiritually taking care of you, emotionally taking care of you. Tell me what you would say to help maybe a student now that you've gone through all these different things in your life. What are a couple of things maybe that you would say to students going through this now they've just found out? Yeah.
So, a big thing that I had, and it was real important to, because obviously, like in my case or whatever, my parents, like we said, were my biggest fans, and gosh, they love me more than anything in this world, and I'm blessed for that. But, even with your family is, they've supported you all these years. Now they're at a standpoint in life where they don't know maybe if they're going to live, they're going to get a chance to walk their daughter or son down the aisle, or and things of that nature. So it was really important for me, because I got kind of bitter at times, and even kind of almost, even though I was bitter, I kind of took it out on my mom. So even in hindsight, I think even now when she got hit with the breast cancer on that side, where it's important to kind of support them as well, and let them know that you're there for them, and it's going to be okay, and you love them, and no matter what. Now, if you're fortunate, like we are, to be strong in our faith and things of that nature, I couldn't imagine tackling my situation, or my mom doing hers without our faith. But that was a crucial driver of giving us peace. But the support was huge, and that doesn't happen often. Especially with kids.
Yes.
They're so upset, and the parents so upset, and the parents trying to basically console them and get them better. But really the parent is dying inside, I can only imagine, as well. That type of support, I think, would be really good for the family side. And don't be afraid to talk to somebody. I'm one of those ones who's kind of closed up, and, I know I've been talking a lot now, but usually when I was younger, I didn't talk much. I didn't express my feelings because it wasn't a manly thing to do, right?
Exactly.
So for the men on that side, it's okay. It's okay to open up and talk to people. I talked a lot of times, my dad and I had really good conversations as, men, one-on-one on, things of that nature. And speaking to, it could be that mentor that you said you talked about. It's great to have mentors, that one person that that is just going to sit there and listen and love on you and help give you good advice going forward. That helped me out. And I think that would be the best approach if someone got hit with that.
Well, and here's what I want to ask you about that, because this happens every time. What are the things people said to you that you just wanted to hit them? So, what are some things not to say, in other words, that people said to you?
Yeah. So, let me think.
In high school, especially during your mom.
So my mom,
if you can remember back then, what are some things a friend said to you? People say stupid things. Yeah. So somebody said something.
Yeah. So, someone one time asked, someone asked, when they ask a question or whatever, is when we talk about like mom having cancer or whatever, and this was right at the point or whatever, and someone just came out, I don't even remember who it was, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but obviously I was very emotional at the time or whatever. They said, well, is she going to die? How long does she have to live? So they had said something like that.
Wow.
in those lines or whatever. And I was like, well, instead of just kind of listening to me and explain like everything and what the situation is, that kind of said that. And it kind of, obviously rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. And, so one of those things, I think is to pull yourself away, if you're the opposite end of someone sharing that with you, just to sit and not say anything and listen. And we can do a lot. We can learn a lot if we just sit and listen. And so that individual, I think, that would be one of the things that kind of irritated me a little bit. But besides that, I've been so blessed, Doug, with so many great friends and family, from Eustis to Mount Dora, Umatilla, Tavares, Apopka. All over the country, quite frankly, all over the world. Yeah. When I got sick at that point, because we came in contact with people from Europe and Dubai, Abu Dhabi, all those areas. And everybody was just so supportive, man. And I can't even explain to you, as Facebook's a big age now, right? So everybody reaching out on Facebook and just saying, man, we're praying for you. And just to hear that, I didn't really experience too many bad moments. As we said, it was mainly was all good. And just knowing that you had all those people rooting for in your corner, I mean, gives you all the peace in the world.
Well, the big thing that you said, though, was this. Words aren't as important as your presence.
Correct.
And listening. You're needing to get things out.
Yes.
And you're not needing to consume more information. The information is overload.
Yep.
You're already overloaded.
Yep.
Just the fact that somebody says your mom's got cancer, boom.
Yep.
Overload. Computer shut down,
Yep.
You're going into another mode. You're going survival mode.
Yes.
There's a gal on TED Talks. I don't know if you've heard of TED Talks. I'm sure you have.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And TED Talks are really great. They're either really stupid or really great. Depends on which one you listen to. But this lady came out, beautiful lady, with shorts on, real short shorts. And I'm going, that's inappropriate.
Yeah.
And she starts talking about being a runner and different things like that. And her thing is telling people how to help people that are going through tragedies. And she was one of the Boston Marathon runners when the bomb went off. She lost her leg.
Wow.
You couldn't tell. She had a great prosthetic on. She wore the short shorts to show that, she looked normal, but she wasn't normal.
That's incredible.
And she said, my best friend is no longer my best friend because she came up one time. She says, you need to just get over it.
Wow.
Stupidest thing she could have ever said.
That tops the charts right there.
That's right. Made me so angry. And she said, and I didn't know that she was going through something at the time. And that's why I ask you those things, because I remember even as youth pastor with kids going through cancer with their parents going through the death of students, different things like that. I can think back of a handful of stupid things I said.
Yeah.
Now, I also knew what not to say to some degree, but you also are going through a learning process yourself on the other end of being the comforting friend.
Yes. As far as, like you said, the listening and the presence means a lot on that side.
Who listened best to you?
There were a lot of moments. My uncle is very important in my life, and him and I are. It's funny. We're just kind of like cut of the same cloth. We think a lot alike and analyze things a lot alike. I reached out to him a lot on some tough issues that I was going through. My brother as well, who lives in Ohio, I reached out. He was very supportive, and I would just reach out to some people. So when I wanted to love on and reach out on people, my family, and wanted a family perspective and wanted some family, counseling, I did that. But as far as outside of that, and I would say the most person outside of my family would probably be Pastor Rick Pugh. Was just an incredible individual through this whole entire process.
And I can see that. Rick is a man who has gone through extreme pains in his life. And that's why this foundation, what's the name of his foundation again?
This Hope Foundation.
This Hope Foundation.
Thishopefoundation.org. And you can see it. You can see what the cause is. It's a really big cause, really, really concerning numbers that pertain to divorce rates and things of that nature, especially with families that are dealing with childs that are disabled, as well as the loss of a child. So that's those are very, very, like we said, topics. Those are very topics that you want to kind of tippy-toe around, especially with families. But there's a lot of families out there that suffer from that, and just really they have no hope. So we want to give them hope.
The people who've gone through those kind of tragedies are the people that can speak to those kind of tragedies. Exactly. And I know that Rick and his wife lost a child. At one point, and
his name was Chad, actually.
Oh, really?
And he passed of leukemia.
Oh my!
So him and I had
no wonder you guys had a real close.
We had a pretty close relationship. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was special on that side for him and I. But so the support that he gave me was second to none, and I've been very fortunate for that.
And I've also talked to him about Dina and Tom Yoy. There's a worldwide movement called To Write Love on Our Arms. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one before.
I have not.
But they're pastors, and they're on one of my episodes a few back. So I'll send that episode to you. I told them about each other, said y'all need to get together and work on that, because 3 children, she was the middle child, they were pastors, and she started cutting when she was 12 years old. They freaked out, didn't know what to do, told them not to do it, said all the things that you don't say to kids who are going through that because they didn't know, and then thought they'd taken care of it, and she wasn't a believer or anything. She had mental issues they didn't realize. They go as missionaries to Russia, and they find out it's not ended. Not only that, some severe things have happened to their child before they went to Russia, and they found out in Russia, of course, they come off the mission field thinking they can figure something out, and they get her to a psychologist and found out that she's got severe problems.
Wow.
And so they didn't know where to go.
Yeah.
And now they found foundations and all kinds of places to send other people to in Orlando that I didn't know exist. And I worked in Orlando in Youth for Christ for years, as well as this area. So between those guys and Rick's foundation and what you guys are doing, there's a lot of help out there.
Yes.
So tell us how they can get in touch with you.
You can go to thishopefoundation.org to check out the website, and then you can see all about the foundation. Obviously, Rick and Gina, their focus is on, dealing with families that have, lost a child or dealing with disabled children. I'm also going to have an outreach for individuals, especially, younger individuals that get hit with cancer on that side of thing and that get hit with that adversity on a young age, and how to cope and deal, and what things that I did and what helped me. And, you brought a good thing up as far as, we've said it a few times, the word help. A lot of us don't like to ask for help, especially when it comes to emotional issues, right? Emotional things. I think that's one of the things, especially us men. The last thing we want to do is tell anybody that we're feeling sad or depressed or angry or whatever the case is. We'll react away, but we won't really communicate. So I think that is a really big thing that we're trying to do, and trying to is say there's nothing wrong with asking for help. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. So at the end of the day, that's what we want to try to do with those families and other individuals across the board. Lauren Pugh, Rick's daughter. Yes. She does great things within their community. She really loves little kids and dressed up as a superhero. And I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of her and her dad.
Oh, no, I know.
Superman. And she'll be,
I haven't seen that yet, but Lauren is amazing.
Oh, person, yeah. So she does a lot of great things. So she's part of it in that outreach too. So, but the best way to do is to go on the website. You can also, like I said, that book, This Hope, the book you can get on Amazon. It's a wonderful story, but it'll also give you a lot of inspiration as well. So that's what we're planning on doing. I think God's leading us in the direction, has led Rick and spoke to Rick and Gina, and I feel that it's gonna be great. That's great. That's great. And any way people can get in touch with you personally if they want to send you an email? Yeah, of course. Like I'm wide open with everything. I mean, my email is chad.canfield@gmail.com. That's my personal email. Are you better at email? Email's your best thing? Yeah. Email's probably the best and most efficient way on that side. And you're in the world of finance. Email has to be a good thing. Yes, it is. Exactly. That's right. Exactly. And, even if they want to hear, more about, our company, it's virtualhealthsolution.com. More about telemedicine side. Email, I'd love to take any questions, grab coffee. Anybody that's having any issues, struggling, whatever, just wants to hear more about my story, or I would love to help out. I mean, that's honestly my testimony. When I look back, a lot of people say, Chad, what would you change? I know, like, if you could rewind it, or you could have a wish and just say, hey, no more cancer, whatever. No way. Without a doubt, and I can say 100% with my heart that I'm glad that this happened, and I'm blessed. It wasn't fun, but it just gave me such a better perspective on life and my friends, my family, the experiences that I have. You cherish them so much more when you're faced with death, and you're fortunate enough to beat it. That's one thing that I definitely want to make that, I wouldn't take it back. And see, and that's very important for people to see, because we're going through those tragedies and those things in our life. Life happens. We're in this world. This is not the way God intended this world to be, but He gave us free will. Yes. And so a lot of things come out of it that He didn't intend, but He knew all along. Yep. Just like parents know kids are going to make mistakes, but they have kids anyway. Yep. Your children. And for my Christian brothers and sisters, I tell them basically is one thing that how I looked at it. It's so hard, especially if you lose someone, that this tangible life that we have here is what hurts to lose, and you think about all the memories and everything. But what's in store for us is eternity. And when you can actually put, and I know it sounds easier said than done, but you can actually put those together and say, okay, I get it. Like this isn't a big deal. Our tangible life here is not what it's all about. It's all about being a better human being, and then God willing, I know where I'm going as far as for eternity. That's where it's at. So I mean that helped me, and it helped my family as well. Absolutely. And you may have heard of Sammy Smith, who played for Florida State. Yes. Well, he is the number 2 episode. We had 74 on. He was my number 2 episode. I wanted to catch Sammy before he went to Ole Miss. Yeah, he's an Ole Miss chaplain, right? That's right. Yep. When I interviewed him, he said the same thing about going to prison. I said, well, Sammy,
tell me about that. He said, you know what? He said, that's what it took for God. He said, I've been to church all my life. He said, but that's what it took for God to get my attention. Mm-hmm. And he said, and to that I say, thank you, sir.
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Yep.
It was the best thing that happened to me, and I thank him for sending me there because it's what it took to put my life together.
Yes, sir.
So to say
Amen
the
to
things that you're saying and to have that reiterated over and over with people who've gone through tragedies in their life, mm-hmm. it's unbelievable. I wouldn't wish those pains on anybody, but you know what? A lot of times it's pain mm-hmm. that gives us, I think C.S. Lewis said, pain's the megaphone God uses to get our attention.
He sure does. He sure does.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Chad, thank you so much for being here today.
Much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Goodbye. Absolutely. Say goodbye to Youth Worker Nation.
Yes, sir. Goodbye. Appreciate you guys listening.
All right.
Thank you.
Youth Worker Nation, we're out of here. This is Youth Worker on Fire with Doug Edwards. And keep looking for these episodes. We're going to have more and more of them on. Look for Chad's episode. Pass it on to other people. Remember, you can find us on social media. You can support us through Patreon. And Youth Worker Nation, keep going, keep moving, keep shaking. Don't give up. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We're out of here.
Amen. Appreciate it, buddy.
You've been listening to the Youth Worker on Fire podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and tell your friends. Also, leave a comment and tell us what you think. Stay tuned for more informative episodes.